It's the Eagle Community Television Forum with your host, Gary Shorman.
Hi everyone, I'm Gary Shorman and this is the Forum on Eagle Community Television. It's good to have you watching along. The Forum's brought to you by Hayes Med. We have a special guest on tonight's program, Chief of Police of Ellis. His name is Taft Yates. And Taft, good to have you on our program today.
Good to be here, sir. Thank you.
You know what? Ellis is a great community. It has some great people over there. What's it like being Chief of Police in Ellis?
It's a great adventure every day. There's always a little something new, sometimes not a lot going on, but it's a great community, good people to serve, and good people to work with.
Well, I know when you talk about things that happen in our community, there's always a great group and a great example of special things that happen, and you're one of those because you have a medal around your neck. It's the Hall of Fame medal for being a ranger. How'd you get that medal?
Well, sir,
it's a long story, isn't it?
It is a long story. I guess you could say I've lived the dream. Many years ago, when I was about 3 years old, I told my mom, I said, I want to jump out of airplanes. And lo and behold, in 1975, I went into the Army, and they had just started the 2nd Ranger Battalion at Fort Lewis, Washington. And they were asking for volunteers, and of course I volunteered.
Who would not welcome an opportunity to jump out of an airplane, right?
Yeah, most people wouldn't,
yep.
But some of us do. And so then that's when it all started, into the newly formed Rangers and jumping out of planes, staying out in the misery for weeks and months on end, and eventually going to Ranger School and graduating.
Tell me first, because there are people out, they hear about the Rangers, but what exactly are the Rangers within the Army?
The Rangers constitute the Ranger Regiment itself constitutes less than 1% of the entire Army. And they are a specialized unit doing specialized raids, especially nowadays. The hundreds of thousands of raids they've done on high-value targets over on the war on global terrorism.
And these are not raids with a drone. These are raids with real people.
These are real people facing real dangers on the ground. Yes, sir.
Now, you look at that and the Rangers, and you talk about being airborne, but really the Rangers go back long before in the history of the Army.
Yes, sir. The Rangers actually started pre-Revolutionary War with Major Robert Rogers, movie made after him, Northwest Passage. And coming on forward to even pre-Civil War with President Abraham Lincoln being in the Illinois Rangers. And then there were several Confederate leaders that were bipartisan Rangers. And then after every war, Rangers have been deactivated. There were no Rangers during World War I, and in World War II, Rangers did things such as they stormed the cliffs of Pointe du Hoc in Normandy for the D-Day invasion. That was the 2nd Ranger Battalion. The 6th Ranger Battalion in the Philippines, a portion of them conducted what is still known today as the greatest raid, rescuing over 500 prisoners of war.
What goes into, because this is such a specialized area, and then it gets into jumping out of airplanes, which gets you on the spot real quick, but also leaves you hanging in a parachute for a while. What goes into the training? Because it's just amazing to me the skill that goes into making all of the parts of the Rangers work.
First of all, being a Ranger, it's easier said than done, and it's not for everybody. It's got to be in your heart and in your guts. It's intestinal fortitude. And it's the blind obedience that every Ranger has to know, that every one of their peers, their subordinates, their leaders know their job inside and out, and that they know they're going to be there for each other. And so the training day can start anywhere at midnight and end anywhere 3 days later. And you have to be willing to put yourself through this, the many sacrifices that every Ranger and every family member of a Ranger makes for an individual to be a Ranger.
When you look at that, and I'm sure you have buddies from your career in the Rangers that you go back and the stories and the history of that camaraderie that goes with that, Are there any special moments you remember from being in the Rangers that you can talk about?
Yeah, very, very memorable moments. My, so to speak, baptismal into fire, October 25th, 1983, when we parachuted onto Point Salinas Airfield in Grenada to rescue American students and give control back to the island to the rightful leaders. That jumping out of that airplane at 6:30 in the morning with the sun shining bright and anti-aircraft fire coming in, it was quite an ordeal.
That'd be a memorable experience for everybody out there, but actually jumping out of the plane is memorable enough, but to do it in that kind of circumstances, you have to say, and you're wearing a Hall of Fame honor around your neck, that adds to what a special group that is, because they've honored only a few, when you look at the thousands of people been involved, have been inducted into the Hall of Fame. What is the history of the Hall of Fame of the Rangers?
The Hall of Fame actually started back in 1992, and there's been about 70,000 school-trained Rangers. That's outside of the Ranger Regiment. And right now, to date, there are 368 inductees into the Hall of Fame, less than 1% of the entire Ranger community. And it's a combination of what you did, how you did it, and your leaders, peers, and subordinates that have recommended you for this, that they put their trust and belief and their faith in your abilities to accomplish what you did.
Now, how long were you in the Ranger program, and then what have you done leading up to being Chief of Police in Ellis?
Well, I spent 3 tours in the 2nd Ranger Battalion, which was a total of about 9 years, and various other Ranger assignments, Ranger Company in Germany, a Ranger assignment evaluating and coaching and mentoring infantry units through the Joint Readiness Training Center. And my final assignment was as a first sergeant at the Ranger School at Fort Benning. So I spent about 16 and a half years of my career as a Ranger.
We're going to circle back to the actual award and the ceremony, but before we do, I have to ask this question. When you told your mom when you were 3 years old that you wanted to jump out of airplanes, and then you go and jump out of airplanes, I'm guessing your family wasn't surprised.
No, they weren't surprised, not at all.
And was it hard to make that first jump out once you made it, or you were already there long before you ever actually jumped out of a plane?
The first jump's not hard. Most of the time it's the second jump that's hard.
Why is that?
Well, because the first time you've been trained all the way up through it and you don't know what it's like to fall out of an airplane flying at 150 miles an hour. So, hey, everybody else is doing it, you go do it.
Get in line.
It's the next time that, well, is this really what I want to do?
Mm-hmm.
And if you make that second jump, yeah, that's what you want to do.
A lot of times you see people on TV, and you're talking different kinds of jumps here. You see people on video, whatever, they'll jump out of an airplane and they pull the chute and then they play around and do all this stuff. I don't think that happens with a Ranger, does it?
Well, first of all, to be a Ranger, you in the Ranger Regiment, you have to be airborne qualified. You're jumping and you have a static line hooked to your parachute, which is hooked to a cable inside the plane, and it pulls your chute. But later on in life, you continue doing it. You sometimes get afforded the opportunity to go to military free fall school.
And that's where you just free fall till the very end and you pull the chute?
Sometimes, yes, sir. Sometimes you free fall for a short time and then fly for a long ways underneath that canopy.
Boy, it's an interesting story. We're going to find out the details about the Hall of Fame award process, how you were inducted into the Hall of Fame, and some of those details when we come back. Again, you're watching The Forum here on Eagle Community Television.
Hayes Med is your first and best choice for healthcare. They're the only facility providing tertiary level services in this region. With more than 70 physicians and 26 specialties ranging from heart, orthopedic, spine care, cancer, obstetrics and gynecology, wound care, rehabilitation and surgery, including the Da Vinci robotic surgery, Hayes Med is your comprehensive health provider for people throughout Western Kansas. Hayes Med, helping people be healthy.
It's a beautiful day in our super high-speed internet great customer service neighborhood. Like you, this is where we live. In fact, our company is employee-owned, so it's our goal to improve the quality of life for everyone in our community by delivering faster, more reliable internet, clearer, more feature-laden phone service, quality TV channels, all with the level of customer service you'd expect from people who are your neighbors. Eagle Communications. Our community connected.
Our guest is Taft Yates. Here on our program, we're talking about the Hall of Fame for the Ranger program. Our program is brought to you by Hayes Med and by Eagle Communications. And if you have any questions and comments, any suggestions, ideas, let me know. Gary.Shorman@eaglecom.net. You can also go online on Facebook. You'll find us under ECTV Forum. Again, our guest is Taft Yates, and he has just been inducted into the Hall of Fame for the Rangers. And we talked about going into this, into the break, about the whole process. You had peers. It's not like you just put your name in the hat and they draw your name out, because only a very few people have been inducted into the Hall of Fame. How did you get pushed to the front of the line and selected?
That's a tough question. I ask myself that. It's a very, very honoring and humbling experience. I was approached on it, and I was very hesitant because this usually isn't where I like to be sitting at. And there were members of the Hall of Fame that recommended me, and I was, they did basically a very thorough, not just them, but numerous people, a very thorough background check on my military career and what I did. They checked with my former leaders, peers, and subordinates, and got their input on how they wrote the situation up and if I should be inducted or not. And it was deemed that I was worthy of being nominated. And so then the 75th Ranger Regimental Headquarters, they review everybody's packet that is to be selected. And once that's reviewed, then it goes to a voting board of Hall of Fame members with the president, which is at this time retired 4-star General Buck Kernan, who at one point in time had been a Ranger Regimental Commander. And so then myself, along with 14 others, were voted on, or well, were selected through the votes, and there was one additional one, which was a Medal of Honor recipient, and which makes this all more humbling for me to be inducted into this.
When you look at the peer group that's around that does this, obviously the best of the best get in to this Hall of Fame. But what was the ceremony like? When you take a look at the ceremony itself, was it a surprise to you when your name was listed?
It was a surprise when my name was listed. As a matter of fact, my first name was actually misspelt. There were a few typos here and there, not just on mine, but on several people. And it was a surprise. It took me weeks to actually come to the realization that this did just happen. And I will be going to Georgia and going to the ceremonies for my, not only myself, but for everybody that I ever worked with.
Tell me about that ceremony. What happens in that ceremony in Georgia?
Well, the night before, you get together with all the inductees and family members and a number of prior inductees, and there's a little ceremony and dinner, and then the next day you show up into the Fort Benning, Georgia headquarters, and there's all kinds of brass running around, generals, sergeant majors, colonels, you name it, and then there's us, and they put us up on this stage, and me being in alphabetical order, I'm the last one, okay? Mm-hmm. But to listen to what these men, and in one case the wife of a deceased Ranger, and another case the son of the Medal of Honor recipient, deceased, listen to what, there's a lot that sinks into you, that listening to what these people have done, and it's a great honor to be put in such a group with these guys.
When you take a look at, again, we talk about amazing things that people do in our community. There's a lot of Hall of Fame awards, but when you look at a Hall of Fame of a group that has protected our country, and not only just in a protection mode, but in probably the most dangerous places ever, congratulations on what a great honor, and it's been just wonderful to hear your story. And again, it's Taft Yates, and he is the Chief of Police in Ellis, but he's also a Hall of Fame inductee for the Rangers program. So congratulations.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it.
Thanks for watching the Forum here on Eagle Community Television, brought to you by Hayes Med and by Eagle Communications, our community connected.
Hayes Med is your first and best choice for healthcare. They're the only facility providing tertiary level services in this region. With more than 70 physicians and 26 specialties ranging from heart, orthopedic, spine care, cancer, obstetrics and gynecology, wound care, rehabilitation and surgery, including the Da Vinci robotic surgery, Hayes Med is your comprehensive health provider for people throughout Western Kansas. Hayes Med, helping people be healthy.